Attention bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Well, welcome back, you fellow yodelers. Yoodles! This is the Matterhorn Yodelers podcast. I am here with Peter and
Jackie!
And I am Japheth. And here we are getting on Japheth's magical nostalgia train. All aboard! As our destination takes us to the great TGIF TV show, Boy Meets World. When a boy meets world. So we're going to go and talk about the episodes that stuck out. Since Disney Plus has come out and has filled our life with nonstop streaming of Disney favorites and not so favorites, all of us have periodically picked up the show and watched a chunk of it. And I pushed for us to discuss our favorite shows because it only takes one quote to get the ball rolling on this.
Totally. Boy Meets World has tons of one-liners. I was going through the list of episodes, and when I would just read the headline of the brief description of what each episode was, I can think of a quote almost in every episode that just was very well written and very funny.
Well, Boys Meets World was such a staple in our house growing up. Even during summer breaks, they would always have reruns on
ABC Family.
Yeah, on it was ABC Family. Yep, and so we would always watch
the reruns.
All the reruns
every single time, even though we had seen it 50,000 times, we would still sit there and watch it. And most of the series still holds up pretty well.
I say so. It was going through it now, 20 years later, or 25 years later.
25 years later, yeah.
There are some aspects you grow as an adult and you acquire different tastes. And so what I thought I was diehard, it's all true. As I watched it, I noticed a trend with it where it peaks and then it goes down.
It does. There's definitely a peak, which I think we'll probably talk about in this episode.
I think so. And so the way we're going to structure this episode is we're going to go season by season. So there was 7 seasons and I would have to say
series.
And a spin-off series that
Yes.
greatly influences that series called Girl Meets World.
About Corey and Topanga's children.
And how the oldest daughter, how she's meeting the world. And it's structured very similarly. But we are going to focus on this show, and we're going to go season by season. We're going to give thoughts on the season, characters, and also highlight episodes that were this was good. And I'm kind of curious which episodes stuck out with one another. So we're going to start off with, of course, season 1. So, let me first go into what the show is about. The show is about Cory Matthew, who is a boy growing up, and he is experiencing life. And that's what the show is about. And his interactions with his friends and other people around him, growing up as a early teen to an adult in college. And so with that, there are characters around him, his parents, Mr. Feeney, his neighbor, teacher, professor, stalker, you can say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it, Mr. Feeney, the neighbor who's constant neighbor / principal and teacher and professor. Throughout the entire series, there's just a line at the very last episode of the series where it's all tell us where your favorites. And he goes, I could never do that. It's well, you haven't spoken to another student in the last 10 years.
So that's what the story is about, and it's just about Cory's journey. And so the story is supposed to be about Cory. And so we'll start with season 1. Cory is in the 6th grade, and that's where the show takes off. He's got a brother, Eric, a sister named Morgan, mom and dad, Alan and
Amy.
Amy, yes. And then the neighbor, Mr. Feeney, and Corey's best friend,
Sean Hunter.
And then you have two side characters, Minkus.
Meant to be temporary.
Minkus was temporary?
Yep, they were both these characters were meant to only be like one-offs.
Interesting. And then you have Topanga.
Mm-hmm.
And so this sets the foundation for the series. And so, Peter, we're going to go off with some of the episodes that you thought were good in Season 1.
Okay.
Did you like it, Season 1?
Surprise! Like, as I was going through the list of episodes, like, at first I was thinking, it's like, probably not, I wasn't gonna... But then I started listening, I'm like, oh, I actually have quite a few. Some of the ones I thought were important. Probably one of the most memorable ones for me was episode 2, where the squirt gun war.
Ooh,
yes.
the Super Soakers.
The Super Soakers, and Coy wants a big Super Soaker for the big water war, and Corey's dad's like, well, you gotta earn it. And so he does a job for his neighbor, Mr. Feeney, who's also his teacher, to paint his blinds.
The shutters.
His shutters.
We don't have those here, so it's
No.
like, what are those things?
and then he rushes through the job and ends up spray painting a fence post. And so Mr. Feeney's all like, well, you're going to have to paint my fence because you've messed up my fence now while painting my shutters. And so in the end, the dad does him a solid and paints it for him. And he does get to go do the water war with the big gun. But then Corey makes a good decision and trades. He splits his profits and gives his dad a gun.
Yeah, because he sells the one.
He sells the big gun so he can get two small ones so his dad could have fun as well.
Oh, that's the one where Morgan's all calls the police.
Yes.
All like, my mommy's shooting my daddy.
Yep.
You hear Mr. Feeney like, not my azaleas. Yeah, I like that one.
I like
What did you like?
Corey's Bad Hair Day.
Oh.
Episode 4.
Oh, yes.
It's the alternate friends one.
Yes.
Episode 4, I have it as.
Yes, it's episode 4 where Corey is trying to release his curls.
He's got
Velcro hair.
curly hair.
Yeah.
Velcro hair.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's got Velcro hair. And so he does lots of things, and it's also famous for Sean Hunter's infamous missing sister who you never see.
Stacy.
Where did Stacy go?
Yeah. You find out that
Sean has lots of siblings.
Sean has a sister that you never hear about ever again.
Yeah. All you hear is the phone call. Stacy says this. Stacy, why would you do that? Yeah, I always wanted that, but you're going with... But that also ends...
With a very important scene.
Very important scene.
To the whole series.
Topanga kisses
Oh, yes.
Corey.
Yes.
That's huge.
That was their first kiss.
I love the reference. They're like, what are you supposed to be, Don King? And I was like, nobody knows those references.
Nobody knows
is Don
who Don
King.
King.
Is he even alive anymore?
I don't even think so.
For people who don't know Don King, he was a promoter for Mike Tyson and other famous boxers. His trademark was his hair, poofed out like Corey during that episode. And so it was fun. Are there any other episodes? I didn't have any episodes that were that stuck out. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't The Fugitive. What's The Fugitive
mailbox?
about? Oh, yes. The cherry bomb.
The cherry bomb.
So Sean Hunter blows up a mailbox.
Yeah, by the store.
The grocery store.
The grocery store that Alan, Corey's dad, works at.
Mm-hmm.
And so that ends with Sean thinking he can't go back home and he's got to face the consequences. And so it had a good message. That's where, is that the one where Mr. Feeney catches him in class? And that's where he was hiding out, and he has the canvas as the analogy that they gotta rip it, to hold it all together.
Yes.
Yeah, I can remember. I liked Mr. Feeney that season.
He was a good character.
He was a good character. very stern. I like when Corey switches spots.
That was
on teacher.
That made my list.
That's on your
that
list?
made my list. The episode where Mr. Feeney and Corey make a bet because like Corey's all like, I can be a better teacher than you, and so Mr. Feeney's like, well, if you get more kids to pass the test, then I forgot what the end result was, but like they made a bet.
It was even, so he got to keep his. It was even, where like no more, no less.
Yeah.
And so they just called it a draw.
Yep.
But Sean had a better outcome as a result. I think the book they had to read was Anne Frank, right?
I don't remember. I didn't watch it. I just read the description of the episode. I go, oh yeah, I remember that. That was a good one.
So, did you have any other episodes that season? So,
No.
We have the characters. I liked Eric. He was the cool brother. He was grounded. He was girl crazy, and
he was that like typical normal teenager boy,
obsessed with girls.
Yeah,
that Corey didn't understand because he didn't get to go to a baseball game with his brother.
Oh yes, because he is
because he found a date and he wanted to take a girl to the baseball game and not his younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
That one didn't make my list. It was just one.
And that's the things you go through and you're like, oh, that's what that episode's about. It's amazing how these episodes can trigger in your brain and you can get something from it. All right, so we're done with season 1, it sounds like. We're going to move on to season 2. What do we got?
Season 2, my thought, best season.
Best season.
Best season.
Corey moves on to middle school, 7th grade.
Yes.
Well, there it's high school.
Well, okay, yeah, he's in high school. He does like 7th, 8th, and then they skip like freshman, sophomore, and then they're juniors and seniors. It's the most weird jump ever.
Yeah.
I remember watching it as a kid, I was like, what? They're juniors now?
Yep, because they were growing too fast for the show.
Yes.
I love season 2 because it introduces Harley.
Harley Kiner, the
bully.
The bully of John Adams High.
But he was he was no typical bully. He was just a cool bully, like that 50s, like.
He definitely fit the stereotype of like a 50s greaser, sort of.
He's got his lackeys. He's got Frankie. And
Frankie Stechino.
And Joey the Rat.
Joey the Rat, yes.
And so, I remember he's a good character. He creates enough chaos in the season for Corey to, he has to maneuver that aspect of this floating, bad guy. And somehow it works out. One of my favorite episodes on that, and I didn't write it down, but I think we agreed on it, was the Sister Teresa.
Yes, episode 10.
Where Corey doesn't realize it, but he's going out on a date with Harley Kiner's sister, and all chaos ensues. And my favorite scene was Harley's sister is showing his affection by spray painting a heart on the lockers in high school. TC CM plus CM, and there's a big heart, and everyone's looking at it and they're like, what's going on? And then they clear out. Mr. Feeney's like, Mr. Matthews, can you explain this to me? And he's like, whoever this TC girl really likes corn muffins. And I love that. Every time I see corn muffins or hear corn muffins, I go straight to that episode of thinking about that. So that was a big one for me. Which one did you have, Peter?
One I had, I've got a few here. I really liked, in terms of importance to the story, I felt Career Day was a very important one. Where
I've got a coupon.
That's right. So it's Career Day at the school, and Corey's dad, he's a grocer. He's a manager at a grocery store, and he's got some. It's not the most fascinating of jobs.
It's not a Gucci job.
It's not. And then Sean's dad goes up there. Chet Hunter. He goes up there and basically makes up stuff and looks really cool. And Sean knows he's lying.
He's a good showman.
He's a very good showman. And then in the end, you just like, you get that appreciation of, like, the journey that Alan goes through, because, like, he feels down about, like, his job not being that exciting or great that his kids are, like, excited for. But it has that lesson of, like, he works hard. Like, he does hard work. He's important. And, he's a good man.
And Chet does recognize that, too. And he tells him, like, you feed America. You put food on people's plates. And, like, that's important. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And, like, that... I kind of, like... Yes, the show's about Corey, but it brings in the other characters and gives them more depth instead of having them being complete satellites around the characters.
Correct.
So I thought I think that's a great episode, too. I'm going to say that a lot this podcast because I like probably 90% of the episodes.
Well, as I was going through the list, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and pick out the best ones out of all the series, and I narrowed down all of the seasons down to 60 episodes. So that shows you about how much of this show that I enjoy. So
I think there was 150 episodes or so.
Something like that.
Jackie, what do you got?
I've got, episode 5, The Uninvited, where Corey realizes he's a nerd.
Yes.
It's a geek party. So, like, yeah, give us the backstory on that one. Because there's more to it.
Okay. For what I remember of the episode is that Corey is feeling insecure. He doesn't feel cool. Sean's got the great hair.
He's a popular kid.
Very popular. He floats around and he does well, but he's loyal to Corey. That's the message of the story. He's always going to be loyal to Corey, but Corey feels so insecure that he's not cool, and then the most popular girl starts passing out invitations.
The invitation that everyone wanted.
And you show her reject, be like, nope, not you. And then Corey ends up with it, but not Sean. And, like, Corey recognizes that Sean's cool, and then he's like, what's going on? Like, are you not cool anymore? Am I cool?
And Sean was all like, why does it matter?
Exactly. And that's what a cool kid would say.
Yeah.
And so you see that and you're like, oh.
And then in the end you find out that the party was a geek party.
Because the mom went through the list and Corey was selected because he was safe. And that's pretty much the description of Corey by everybody throughout the season. Like, he's safe.
Which I think leads into another episode.
Which one?
Danger Bay.
Oh yes. Is it Danger Bay?
No,
yes.
Danger Boy.
Danger Boy.
Sorry, I can't read my own hand.
Danger Boy.
Danger Boy.
I love that. Where
that's on my list too.
Mr. Feeney and Corey ride the roller coaster at the end.
Because they have stigma that they've been stereotyped into certain roles, and that they take the easy route or whatever. Like
Mr. Feeney was supposed to be you're going to be the Chesley of the chess.
They were like assigning clubs, and they're like, and chess club, well, that'll be Mr. Feeney. He goes, well, what if I wanted to be on a ski trip, or I wanted to do, it's like, okay. And
Mr. Turner's like, well, you can have my spot. And he's like, no, like, why can't I, why was I selected? So he didn't like that he was being typecasted into a club. And I think Corey had a similar thing.
Yes.
He was just safe. And he's like, I'm not safe. Oh, that was the episode where Eric was going to do a double date, and he selected Sean over Corey.
That's what it was, yeah.
And it's like, well, he's more exciting than you, Corey. And he's like, I'm not exciting? And he's like, no. And so, at the end, you have, like Jackie said, you have Corey and Mr. Feeney going to ride this roller coaster where they have to sign death waivers.
Yes.
And they're the first to ride, and the news is there to report it. Eric and Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner
is a teacher.
He's a teacher that kind of fills in the Mr. Feeney role. As Mr. Feeney he becomes the principal of the high school.
So it's not that Mr. Feeney's their teacher for every single class in high school.
Stocks them forever. No. So they ride the ride, and you see them come back, and they switch seats, and like they tell their horror stories.
Yeah.
Like Corey's choking Mr. Feeney. He's like, "Get the boy off me!" And so it's just a fun episode. one of my favorite episodes of the series is the Thrilla in Villa. And that's the one where Corey, it's the end of the year, and Corey's supposed to find his identity of, like, who is he? And he's the perfect weight class for a wrestling spot. And so he didn't have to wrestle anyone because there was no one to wrestle. And at this point, Harley Kiner has left the show. He's gone to reform school. And there's a new bully in town, Griff.
Yes.
And he's got his lackeys.
Which, what's his...
He's on Parks and Rec.
Yes, he's, oh man.
He's in
he's in a bunch of stuff. I've just forget the actor's name, but yeah.
He's the cool, he's not like a greaser, he's more of a laid back, kind of, you would think as a con artist, the person that can, like,
he can talk himself out of things.
He can talk himself out of anything, and he can get anything. He's got connections.
Yeah.
He's that type of person. And as a result, you have, what is it? You have, the Rat. Joey the Rat.
Joey the Rat.
He's going to wrestle for the spot because he's trying to find his identity. And as a result, is it Griff? Is that his name?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm thinking of Back to the Future with Biff
Right.
and Griff, and I was like, oh no, did I just mix that up?
The new bully.
The new bully, we'll go with that. And so there's this large event that comes from this match.
Oh, yes.
That they have Corey wrestles Joey and he beats him in a, typical wrestling match. And then Joey's not happy with it. He wants a dirty match, like no bar holds, like anything goes. And they agree to do it after hours at the gym. And it turns into this spectacular where you have Robert Goulet. And Yasmin Belief, who was on Baywatch back in the day. And she's there with the new bully, Griff. Well, I believe it's Griff. I can't remember his name. And it becomes this whole spectacular. You have Joey's dad, who's the
Vader.
Vader.
Well, it's not Joey. That's
not Joey. Frankie.
Frankie's dad.
Stechino's dad on there, and it becomes this WWE or WWF back then.
Yeah.
And it becomes into one of those matches where people are tapping in, and Corey taps Eric in, and he's got to face Frankie, pokes him in the eye, and then Vader comes in and starts throwing Eric around. So it was fun to see Eric develops a personality too throughout the season.
Yes.
He's no longer he becomes, his intelligence starts to slip.
Yes, his role as a relatively
typical normal
teenager
boy.
He's definitely starting to come off more. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yes.
Well, I think he comes to that moment of I have to grow up, and
yeah, later on.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean he becomes smarter as a
No,
character.
no.
It only goes downhill for Eric, unfortunately.
I feel like there was an episode where something happened to his brain, and it just never recovered, and it just keeps getting worse.
That.
There isn't one. That's what I'm saying. Kind of
I know they talked about there was an episode where he does a sleep study and
oh, I love that one.
And
the study
he has no brain activity when he sleeps.
And then the mouse has
fears.
Oh, he has fears and dreams of hope, and Eric goes, oh, that poor little guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have anything else for season 2?
I think we're good on that one.
Yeah.
We can move on. And there are lots of episodes, but we don't necessarily have the time to go through all.
The ones we're talking about. Season 3. What do you guys have? I don't have anything for season 3.
That was a rough one. There wasn't much.
Episode 1, Best Friends Girl, when Corey Matthew and
Yes.
Topanga get together, where Sean asked Topanga out on a date.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That was the big setup for Corey and Topanga's best friends tried to set up the Corey and Topanga relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was good.
That's kind of the main start of their relationship, other than the kiss.
That was when they started dating.
Yes. And then I also enjoyed Happiest Show on Earth.
Which, of course, is the Disney World episode where the
week of TGIF, where they had Step by Step.
Yep.
And then Roseanne was there
Yep.
for that week.
Family Matters.
Family Matters there because Urkel was doing his competition
Yep.
to show his Stefan transformation device.
I think that happened. I think that wasn't on the same day. I think that happened later.
Okay.
Because I think that.
You think
happened
so?
later. Yeah.
So they did a crossover promo for the show. Oh no, Full House was there.
Full House did that on its own before.
Did they do that?
Oh yeah, way before.
Okay.
Basically, it's Boys Meet World and
At Disney World.
at Disney World.
And they're at Epcot for the most part.
For the most part.
They had to do the traditional ride on Splash Mountain gag that I think all of the shows did.
You have to ride Splash Mountain, hold a sign, and take a picture.
Yeah.
So the premise of the episode is Corey and Topanga are not together, but Corey wants Topanga back. And
So he goes down to Florida to try to win her heart.
because there's the smoocher,
Competition,
the competition, Joey whatever smoocher, he's known for his kissing, and he knows like it's so romantic in like Disney World, and he's gonna lose her, and this was his chance because the episode he was going to like, hey, we need to be together, and she goes off, and so somehow Sean gets Corey down to Orlando, and basically Corey's chasing Topanga, but unfortunately, Corey was dating a girl who's also on the same trip before, and she still thinks that Corey's in love with her, but really Corey's not, and so there's all these awkward bump-ins, and Topanga's confused and like, you're just a playboy. You have all these girls.
But that was one thing about the series. You just saw like, that's not believable.
Yeah.
Corey is not a playboy.
I just always remember seeing the scene as a kid of like when Corey and Sean wake up on Splash Mountain.
Yeah, because that's where they slept.
And I always thought like, how cool would it be to sleep in Disney World?
Not at all.
Nope.
They spray their bleach water all over the place.
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, and there's the magical kiss at the end where they're at the fountains.
The Fountain of Nations.
Fountain of Nations at Epcot, and that's where they kiss, and they're back together until they are not back together. Yes, I think that was a good ending for the show. The season. Oh, and that's where Eric graduates, too.
Yes.
And they begin a road trip, brother, where Corey and Eric go on a road trip to really solidify
Across the nation.
Across the nation as Eric looks for universities that will accept him and his wealth of intelligence that he has to offer. Not so much.
No.
And that leads into season 4, which I think is the best season for me. I think it peaks there for me.
That is definitely between 4 and 5. Like, you can tell that that's the peak of, I feel, the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it peaks there because at that point, Corey and Sean and Topanga are magically juniors. No longer 8th graders. They're juniors. And they begin...
well, I think season 3 they were like freshmen.
They were 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I liked season 1. I liked the season 4 episode 1 where you can't go home, where Eric is afraid to go home because he's not been accepted anywhere, and he finds a small town, and he believes there is people, and it's the world's largest yogurt cup.
That's right.
The parade of sprinkles. I love that. Why do you guys have goggles? And this plane flies over and drops sprinkles on the crowd, and Corey's looking up, and sprinkles fall on his eyes, and I love that. Or, why aren't you wearing pants?
Or what was it? The,
Comfort Pie.
Yes.
Abe Pagoda.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not Abe Pagoda.
Is that Abe Pagoda?
No, that's not Abe Pagoda. That's another guy.
Okay. I'm all off.
I liked episode 2 where it was like
classic
hair today, gone tomorrow, where Topanga cuts her hair to prove Corey. Yeah.
It's like it's not about your what your hair is or what you look like, and that's when Topanga realizes, oh, it does matter.
And that's kind of when Topanga's like character from like back in like from season 1.
That's when she transferred.
That's when she
changed.
She went from like cute to like meow, and she was hot at that point. I remember going like, wow, a haircut can really make a difference. She went from like the crazy kooky girl that's smart to like, oh, she's the smart hot girl now. So yes, that was a great episode because Corey learned a good lesson, and so did Topanga.
Yes.
Yes.
I would say.
Oh, next episode.
I know, right? Like it's literally like 1, 2,
It's
3,
like,
5.
3.
Like I'm just
Shallow boy.
Episode 5.
No, that's 5.
That's 5.
That's 5.
Oh boy.
3 is when the dad quits the grocery store.
Oh yes.
It is a good episode, important to the storyline. Dad quits the grocery store, and Amy buys an outdoor shop. And
Yes, because Alan made a life-altering decision without consulting his wife, and we were all married, and we all know, that was you screwed up, bro.
Yeah, it's a big no-no.
And so Amy goes, "You owe me one, decision that changes this whole family," and she did. She bought a outdoor store for Alan because he likes being outdoors, and it was a passion of his, and I thought it was great.
Yep,
yes.
That was a good episode, which then leads into episode
Shallow
5.
Boy. Oh man! So there is a folk singer that plants herself in front of the store and is singing, and she is scaring away the customers. And Alan tells Eric, which Eric is working for Alan because he's not going to school and he needs something to do. So he's working there, and this girl's singing, and Eric is shallow and takes her out and gives her attention, and he soon realizes she doesn't have much depth herself. She's just folk songs, everything's happy, and then, Eric breaks her heart. And Chubby's, the restaurant,
the very important restaurant for like
season 2 to
5 episodes,
yeah.
5 seasons,
season 2 to 5. There's the go-to hangout place, and she is experiencing disappointment for the first time, and she creates the song "Shallow." And she sings this song, and she's got an uncle who owns a record company, and they produced this record within a day.
Yes.
And she's on the radio and super popular, and Eric has to hide, and he's ashamed, and he's fortunate that this is social media because
it would have wrecked
he would have destroyed, he would be shamed forever as being the shallow boy.
Yep.
And in the end, Eric confronts her because she wanted more ammunition because she needed more angst.
She was out of material to make more music, and so she meets up with him, trying to get more. But then Eric turns the tides and makes her think about her favorite song from Annie, Tomorrow, and
it changes her.
It changes her back to her happy, perky self, which then ends her career.
Yes.
And Eric's all like, yeah.
I love how at the end he's like, listen to the radio. I was like, this chick's toast. And he's like, I like that. That's probably one of my top 5 episodes.
There was one episode I think we forgot to mention was Good Looking Guy or...
I don't remember what episode
that
was.
I think it was
I don't think the episode was very good. It was a funny part of the episode, but I don't think the episode itself was very good because it was only like the subplot.
But sing the song.
It's just when a crime breaks out, all the cute girls shout, it's a good-looking guy. When there's a crime out there, he's got to comb his hair because he's a good-looking guy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It was so good. And it's basically Eric doesn't have a job, and Alan eventually kicks him out, but he has this dream as he's sitting on the couch eating his chocolate Cocoa Puffs.
Yes.
And he's like, all these old guys are solving crimes. Why isn't there a good-looking guy? And that's where
he comes up with a good-looking guy crime show, TV show that he thinks that he's on, but it was just a dream.
It was just a dream, and so it ends the episode with Eric doing like a promo to his TV show, and it's hilarious. Yeah, like I said, I can't even remember the name of the episode, but I remember like, oh, it's the good-looking guy episode.
Yeah. Okay, so jumping back, I think a very important episode was episode 15, Chick Like Me.
Great. That's on my list.
Yeah.
Chick Like Me. So, like, like Topanga tells them how hard it is to be a girl, and so Corey, he wants to write a piece for the newspaper to live a life like a girl,
Yeah, and it's a perspective piece.
It's a perspective piece, and so he tries dressing up like a girl, and he's just not pulling it off. And Sean is like kind of teaching him how to do the mannerism as a girl. And eventually Topanga and Corey are like, you know what? Sean's going to be
because Corey was a clunky girl.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yes.
But
Sean pulled it off. He pulled off a very good, petite girl. And he attracts the attention of the Slimo, athlete of the school.
Yes.
And teaches him a lesson. Which they take that same storyline and apply to Eric and Jack in season 7.
Yes, they did.
And so it's like, oh, I like that episode. And then it made my list on the second one. So that's what you do when you're at the end, I guess. That season also has Topanga moving to Pittsburgh, but then they get back together.
Yes, the whole back and forth between Corey and Topanga.
And then there was the episode where Sean joins a cult. I forgot that was a thing back in the late 90s with beware of cults.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
that was the last episode of Mr. Turner, because he gets in a motorcycle accident and you just never see him again. But he's not dead.
He's not dead.
No.
He shows up in Girl Meets World.
He does.
I skipped ahead. When you said that, I was like, oh, let me go back. And
yeah, he's like the superintendent of schools in New York or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
He bumped up in there.
One I'll just throw in real quick is when Sean makes Mr. Feeney's house an Airbnb, or not an Airbnb, but
the bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast.
Yep.
Just love it. Just fun.
I don't remember.
Because that's the only time you go into Mr. Feeney's house.
That's true, and he has a very sophisticated,
very
warm,
nice house.
Yes, with wood paneling, and it's what you would think Mr. Feeney's house would look like.
Which is, I think it's funny because Mr. Feeney gets married in season 7? 6. Yeah, he gets married in season 6, and I'm like, why doesn't he get married in his house and not
why
the Matthews?
Because they didn't want to make another set again.
Yeah, that's the truth of that. Was the Christmas episode that one with Topanga?
That was later.
No.
That's season 5.
That's season 5, and that's on my list. A
did.
very Topanga Christmas.
Okay, let's move on to season 5. Yes, that one I have an issue with because they bring up the Christmas tree.
So there are many inconsistencies when you're big Boy Meets World fans we are. There are the Sean sister incident. There's this Christmas tree because early on in
season
one, they had a
season
classic
1
Christmas tree.
We have our live tree. We always get a live tree.
And then in this season, they have this fake tree that they're we always have the fake tree. And then Topanga makes them get a real tree.
Yeah, she hijacks their Christmas.
Yes.
And she makes it their own. Let's do this. And they went all the way to Vermont to get syrup. And Eric's just got this resentment of just I hate Topanga. She's ruining Christmas. It's your fault, Corey.
I think it's also a very funny story because it's also relatable for any newlywed couple.
Trying to figure out your own traditions because you each have your own traditions that you have in your mind of what you want to do, but then the other one's but that's not what I want to do.
Yes.
Me and my wife, we kind of dealt with that with Christmas because we do Christmas differently. Her family was kind of we just do everything at once. We just open and just go, whereas our family, we always took our time, one present at a time.
We savor every
wrapping. We make gift opening last till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, very much so. I've broken up with girls because their Christmas traditions were inconsistent with my own.
Oh, really?
Not really. No.
I was wow.
Really?
That's not true. But
it
it is what it is. I'm very fortunate I married Tess, who has the same traditions, and so. But it does bring up the point. There are inconsistencies of when you're with someone where it comes to not inconsistent. You just have tradition clashing.
Yes.
And that's something you have to talk through and concede. We had issues with decorating, and I told Tess, was you know what, you can have 99% of Christmas if I can have black Santa. Santa Claus will be black in my house, and then everything else you can decorate the tree as white. But I want my children to know that Santa Claus is black. There's no reason why. I just think it's just I just think it just bucks the norm. It's just completely different, and I'm just like, but Tessa's like, I guess we just never discussed it after that. But I always threw that ultimatum out to her, and it was always this joke of just like, well, like, you can have all Christmas. You won't, I won't do anything with the decorating, and it just, we have kids, and you just, forget about it.
Yep,
it's an early relationship,
pretty much. Yep.
Ultimatum.
I think another important episode was the Halloween episode.
Yep. It was a fun episode.
What was that one? And then there was Sean, where they're trapped in the school.
Oh, the Witches of Pembroke.
No.
That's season 5, right?
Well, no, that's not what she's talking about.
No, that's the Halloween episode.
No. She's talking about...
episode 17.
Oh.
Yeah. I always thought it was the Halloween episode. It's not.
It is. Oh, it's not?
I thought it was. It's the Witches of Pembroke, where they had the girl from Full House there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like a classic Boys Meets World episode where they're stuck in the high school and people are getting murdered.
Classic episode? I don't remember that happening in the past.
Well, I would say
they killed Kenny.
I would say this is probably the most memorable.
Always remember, Kenny was this tall.
Because the pencil goes through his head.
Yeah.
And he went down. Yeah. The lines were great. Somehow Eric and Jack, this is season 5 when they introduced Sean's other brother, half-brother, Jack, who's played by the Lawrence, one of the Lawrence brothers.
Yes.
You may know him from, he was the son of Mrs. Doubtfire's children.
Yes.
He was
in that movie.
He plays Jack in Boy Meets World. And so he becomes best friends with Eric. They're roommates. And somehow I thought it was funny in that episode that they're just like, oh, we're running hoops at the school. It's like, there's not a basketball court at the university?
Okay. Right. We're just at the high school.
At the high school playing hoops.
And then Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was famous at the time for her appearance in Scream.
Scream, I think.
Or, no, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. And that was the rage during that time period where, the teen slasher thrillers.
Yeah.
And at the time, Eric, Will Friedle, was dating Jennifer Love Hewitt at the time.
Oh.
Fun fact right there. So that's probably why she
agreed to do it.
What is I liked, this is where Sean falls in love with Angela.
Hearst Girl.
Yes.
Hearst Girls.
That was a great episode.
Sean falls in love with a girl's purse and the personality behind it, and then eventually leads to Angela.
Well, leads to another girl.
But it wasn't her
stuff. It was just that girl's purse, not her stuff in the purse.
You're right.
But then you find out it was Angela. So a very important episode for the whole series as a whole, because that's when she kind of becomes a regular member of the cast.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and she becomes like a rock for Sean when it becomes to who he loves, because his dad and his dad and mom are really not characters on the show anymore.
Yeah.
They're there, but they're not an influence. So Jack and Angela become kind of his family.
Yep.
Besides Corey.
Yes.
I would say probably the most important episodes would be the ski trip.
Oh, before that, you have First Girlfriends Club, where Sean and Angela, gonna celebrate their first Valentine's, and all the ghosts of Sean's past,
all of his girlfriends,
they kidnap him and they put him on a trial, and it's basically for him to realize what the pain what he's caused them, and they're jealous that he actually likes Angela more than he liked them, and so there's 3 of them. It's a fun one. It brings you back some of those relationships and you get a little more closure. And then you have Eskimo Kid before that.
Eskimo.
Where Mr. Feeney's being really hard on Sean, and he tells him, you have to get Super Bowl tickets. You've got to work hard, and, in order to pass this class, you have to get those tickets. And Topanga can't help him, and Corey Corey has to help him or he can't do it for him. I can't remember his part. But basically, Mr. Feeney comes down really hard. It was very uncharacteristic of Mr. Feeney, but he was trying to teach him a lesson. And Sean ends up on a billboard,
trying to win tickets to the
Super Bowl, and he's got to face, or he's got to stay on this billboard. Last one who stands with the competition gets Super Bowl tickets. Well, his last competition is an Eskimo who's in town visiting. And he's wearing shorts and eating an icicle. What was it, a fudge bar or something like that?
It was some sort of ice cream.
It was some ice cream, and it's a blizzard. Like, it's freezing out there.
I am warm and you are cold. Hey!
Yes, that was what the Eskimo was singing, and I just love it for that bit. But overall, the message of the episode was really good. Like, you're not who you are.
My whole
you can
life,
change it.
There's been an Eskimo.
In his way, yes. And so That's probably another top 5 for me. Just the message alone and just the Eskimo there.
And we've got
yes,
the Heartbreak Corey episode where they go on a ski trip. Corey hurts his ankle getting off the bus, so he can't go skiing with his friends.
Senior trip,
and he meets the cabin girl,
who is the mother from How I Met Your Mother. Same actress.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And so
it's also Hawkeye's wife in the Avenger movies.
Is that really her?
That's her.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
And so, they have some conversations while Corey's friends and Topanga, they go off skiing. He's stuck at the cabin with the cabin.
It's a resort.
It's a resort thing.
Yeah. So they're at the lodge.
Yes, and so they kind of have really nice conversations, and they stay up all night talking.
Yes.
And most of the time, there's a point in a relationship when you have that type of conversation. Like I had that in my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife, we were at an Applebee's and we talked. We started at 9 o'clock and we closed the place down at 2 o'clock and then we left, And that's when you're like, oh, this is something.
This
and
is
I think
something real.
So as an adult, I watched that. I was like, oh, that's serious.
Yes.
The all-night conversation with a significant or a potential significant other.
And she leaves him a note as they leave, and Topanga finds the note.
Well, do we say that she kissed Corey? They kissed.
They did kiss.
And that's what the note was about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they kissed, and then there was a note, and Topanga finds out, which then what causes a breakup.
That was serious.
Breakup.
That was
a big one. That was a big one that kind of lasted most of the season.
It finishes off the season pretty much.
Yes.
Until they eventually get together.
And then it's like prom.
But I would say a highlight episode would be Eric Goes to Hollywood.
It's kind of a filler episode.
It is a filler episode. There's no real significance to it, but it's hecka funny because we quote that often. So Eric is this he gets picked up because he's performing Shakespeare really well.
And he does a really good job. He wasn't even an actor. He was just doing a set. And overheard, and he just can memorize things. Eric has these sporadic moments of genius that come out.
And so he gets recruited to be part of this TV show, which looks exactly like Boy Meets World. The actors all look the same, and the sets all look the same. And so, it's Eric kind of trying to figure out how to act in a scene with,
without being in Shakespeare mode.
Yes. And then there was a classic line where the actor who looks like Corey but isn't Corey, he goes up to the writers who are a bunch of little kids,
they're
probably 8.
Yeah, 8 to 10-year-olds.
And he's like, you know what this script is? It's poopy. And one of the kids goes, it's not poopy, you're poopy.
Oh, it's the best line. Call someone poopy, and I'm just like, that little kid. The episode's but that line just puts it over the top for me.
We would constantly rewind that one scene over and over and over again.
Oh, it was great. Just that kid. I wonder where he's at. Okay, so we pretty much end the season
with graduation.
Yes.
And Topanga asks Corey to marry him. And that leads into season 6, where
they go get eloped.
They try to elope
because everyone's fighting.
They're against them.
Everyone's fighting whether or not they should or should not get married. And so they leave in all the commotion to try to go elope because they're going to do what they want to do. And they try, and Topanga,
cold feet.
She got cold feet and says, I don't want to do it like this. And so they come back unmarried, even though they come back and everyone thinks that they're married and like, no, we didn't actually do it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the season 6,
it just
stunk.
goes down.
It does go down.
I had no good episodes.
I had a few. I didn't have. Wait.
I say if you're gonna skip a season, skip season 6.
You get episode 4 where you get the fahihini.
Yeah.
Yes.
What? I think an important episode would be Santa's Little Helpers, where Eric becomes Santa and helps, and he ends up becoming a big brother for an orphan boy.
I couldn't even watch that again because I always get emotional.
Later on, correct.
Yeah.
Because which episode was that? Was that in 7?
That was 6.
That's in 6.
Because 7, they have to, Eric was going to adopt Tommy.
I think it's Can I Help You Cheer You, in episode 18, where Tommy, there's a family that wants to adopt Tommy, the boy that Eric has become little brother to, and Tommy doesn't want to go with them. He wants to go with Eric. Eric says, yeah, I'm going to adopt him. But then Eric kind of grows as a person and realizes that Tommy's going to be better off in this family with his sister.
Yeah.
And although Tommy is mad at him, he still loves him.
Yeah.
And they bring it back in Girl Meets World.
They bring it back in Girl Meets World.
Oh,
and that was like
up so bad.
It was a big moment. Like, I was just like, no way! Like, I was getting emotional watching that scene.
So it does bring it back around.
If you watch Girl Meets World, there is an episode where
Eric is running for Senate.
Yes.
Because he's the mayor of St.
Oopid Town.
Or Stupid Town.
Yes. It's not Stupid Town. It's St. Oopid.
So when you get into season 6 and season 7, the episodes do dwindle down and what they provide. Corey, I notice, kind of loses his mind like Eric.
Yes.
So there must be something
there
must be lead pipes or something where they're
college.
Yeah, and they're drinking from it, and Sean goes smart, but then he has stupid moments with them, and it just you're just going through the adventures of Corey, and it just doesn't become very good. And Eric, really, he becomes insane.
He does. He goes absolutely crazy.
I actually
like the whole wedding.
Yeah.
Where.
Well, that's the next season.
Oh,
we'll get to the wedding in the next season.
I like Jack, Sean's brother. He
brought things to the ground.
He
grounded things.
He grounded things. He was a good
counterbalance to Eric.
Yes, it made Eric funnier.
It did,
because if Eric was by himself, he'd just be like, "You're no different than the person that I see screaming at the ground,"
Yeah.
So I don't get it. So they did a good job with that. They bring in Rachel, a new character.
Yep.
And she's just there.
Yeah, she's okay.
It's to give conflict between Jack and
Eric. Yeah.
Because she takes over Sean's old room as Sean moves in with Corey to be roommates
for college.
Yeah.
I would say an important episode. Well, I think a good episode because I think it pulls it back to classic Boy Meets World, and that's B-Truth. When Corey and Sean work together to try to get Mr. Feeney, his girlfriend, the Dean,
that's
together. That was I felt like a classic Boy Meets World episode where it's just classic Eric and Sean shenanigans.
Yes. They bring it all together. Yeah, that was a good one. That's one I had.
That was number 19, episode 19 of season 6, and then there's the psychotic dreams that the episode 21 I had of Corey dreaming of killing Sean.
Oh.
But that turns into like some sort of metaphor of him having to sacrifice his old life so that he can move forward with his new life with Topanga as they get married.
Yes. Also during the season, Sean's dad dies, and that plays an emotional toll on Sean as he goes up and down, trying to figure out his identity and his place. This is the overall arc of Sean, is dealing with his past, his unstable family situation, and just seeking acceptance in family. And you do get that with the Matthews are a second family to him. And it's a good message of like, your best friend's parents can be the parents that you always needed. So I always thought that was the good story that came out of Sean dynamic. But it was like every season there was always like a meltdown of Sean.
Yep.
Wanting to go back to being, his old ways or what he's supposed to be. The perception of like
I think they do that.
A trailer.
They do those things in like all the seasons. So they've got a section where Sean's dealing with his past. A section where Corey and Topanga aren't together.
Yeah, there's a cycle.
There's definitely a cycle.
Did that here where like Topanga's parents are breaking up?
They're going through divorce right before their wedding, and then Topanga calls off the wedding.
Completely. It's like, my parents can't make it, no one can make it, even us. And I was just like, what? That's stupid. Oh my goodness, that's when I was like, this is dumb. And then season 7 starts, and I'm just like, I don't like any of this. It was painful. It was hard for me to finish.
Season 7, I did like,
the build up to the wedding. So like the episode before the wedding and then the wedding episode. Those were both good episodes.
You like those? I didn't care for
There was the reunion. The flash forward where you get...
It's called the War. It's a two-parters. The first one's the War, and then the second one's the Peace.
Yes.
Where they have kind of like a prank war, and it goes too far to the point where it ruins the whole main group of friends on the show, where they all kind of go their own ways.
Everyone's assessing their dynamic within this group, and like, obviously the closest is Corey and Sean.
Yes, that was the one consistent. Even Corey and Topanga, their relationship is rocky. They're seeing a therapist.
It's like, there's always going to be Sean there.
Yes.
There. It's not us. And there's the ultimatum in any relationship.
Yeah.
It's never good. And you go to the future at Mr. Feeney's farewell.
His retirement.
Which
he looks exactly the same.
It looks great. 6 years later. And everyone meets up and they're just not happy.
Right.
And you meet Plays with Squirrels, which is
Eric
in the future. He looks like Moses, but he has a lollipop tied to his beard.
Yes.
And I love it.
He married a moose.
Yeah, he married a moose. They don't see counseling,
It has like one of my favorite lines with Jack, because like Jack sees Eric and he's just like, whatever, and he like tries to leave. He just walks away, and then like he leaves, and then he comes back and he just like smashes his head on the window like, oh, why am I coming back? And he goes, what is this power you have over me? And he's like, I don't know.
Eric doesn't know. He just lives life. And that's what's great about Eric. He's just very genuine. And yeah, that's where you see was it Plays with Squirrels. I have a t-shirt.
Yes, you do.
I hate wearing that shirt now because people always are like, hey, what's up, Plays with Squirrels? It's a reference, one line in one show that's never brought up again in that show. And people are always all like, so what's up with Plays with Squirrels? And I have to explain this episode, and it's just lunacy.
I have a similar shirt where like I wear it and people are like, is that what it is? It's like, no.
Oh my God. Yeah, and you're just rolling your eyes. You're like, I love this shirt, but I hate this shirt.
Yes.
And yeah, it was only good when I went to the Disney convention, D23, and people were like, that's Point Eastwood's shirt. I'm like, that's right! It was the only time that it was cool to wear that shirt.
I did like when Corey painted the apartment yellow.
Oh, yes.
When he's...
Trust me.
Well, I mean, I think that there was a lot of good episodes there that I actually reflect back on as now married. That thought of like, because like there's that episode where like Corey and Topanga are asking for help because they're struggling, and Corey's parents are like, no. We can't help you.
Right.
You made this decision to be together. You need to figure this out on your own. And I've kind of like taken that as my own life advice of like, I can't depend on other people. I have to figure these things out on my own.
Yeah.
So I
always shows them growing as like, you're no longer like children that are married. You're now adults.
Yes.
You have
you solve your own problems, and they were given this dumpy apartment that they didn't want to live in, and was it married dorms, which I was like, man, they look like a crack house.
Yeah, they look terrible.
And then we end up with Eric and Jack dressing up as women to get back at the college bully. And it's just like Chick Like Me. It's not the fun. It's like, it's the same episode.
It is.
And then the show ends with like pretty much 2 episodes of reflecting on all the funny moments of the characters and their dynamics.
Yeah.
As Corey and Topanga move to New York so that Topanga go to law school at Yale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or Columbia.
I forgot which one.
Yeah, it's in Columbia. I think or NYU. NYU Law School.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she can do her internship as a prestigious lawyer. And so it's pretty much breaking up the band. You have Eric, Jack, and Rachel graduating. Jack and Rachel join the Peace Corps.
Yep.
And Eric's just going to go with Corey.
Corey and Topanga and Sean.
And Sean, too, yeah.
Sean went with them, too.
So it really wasn't much of a breakup.
No. The original crew stayed together.
The OGs. The other guy's like, you go away.
Angela had her goodbye earlier in the season.
Yes.
Yeah, she was going off with her dad to do like a farewell trip. Sean was resistant towards it, but it was needed, like, because Sean lost his dad and realizes that you only have so much time with your parents, so make the most of it. It was a good message.
Like, and you know, and we kind of like rip a little bit on the last couple seasons here, and like, it's not to say that they're not good seasons. They are funny.
There's moments and lines that are funny,
but there's not just story wise and like emotional connection. There's just not much there, but it's still a funny show. Like Eric is absolutely hilarious. There's that line we like to use, underpants.
Underpants. Yes.
Episode where everyone thinks that Topanga's pregnant, but she's like, no, I'm just gaining weight.
I love that line where it's all like, these pants don't fit me. Well, those are my pants. And like, she was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. There's good messages in there, but I felt like the acting was just getting old. The style, where it was just the overacting. It was
getting to the point, like, how far can you take this show now?
I was so burned out.
I think that's what the issues the writers were running into is like, where can we take these characters? We've already kind of taken them to their limits.
Yeah, they're married now. Like
they're married. They're finishing up college. Some of them are finishing up college.
It was a good time to stop, and I'm glad they did stop.
So,
fun fact about it, the writers didn't actually want Corey and Topanga to get married.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't want to get to that point of the story.
Gotcha.
They kind of wanted to push it off. Because usually when you have that closure, it's over. The story is done. Overall, with the thoughts, was there something that bothered you? Were you upset that there was... Which Morgan did you like?
Which Morgan?
Which Morgan did you like? I liked the first Morgan.
First Morgan was cute.
Yes.
I think the other Morgan was just a little too sassy for me.
She was. I like how they brought her back.
You know? Yeah, that was fun when she brought her back. It's like, I've been grounded for
3 years.
3 years, because like she wasn't on the show for years.
It was like on Family Matters when there was a sister on the show, and then they wrote her off, and they never mentioned her again. And it was just like, was it Trudy? Or it was somebody, but it was something. They told her, I was like, I remember like 3 seasons after, they're like, where did that sister go? Like, completely gone. Yeah, they did that to Morgan. They're like, oh, let's bring her back. And then she was a one-liner.
But they did bring her back in...
they brought both of them back.
They brought both of them back in Girl Meets World. as like they like played it off as like they were two separate people, but they were the same person. Like it was kind of weird.
It was weird,
but it was definitely a throwback for the fans who really knew.
There was where's the
which I do have like a list of episodes that reference the Boy Meets World in the spin-off series Girl Meets World.
So spin them off right here. We'll finish off with that. Before that, Jack, do you have any thoughts on Boy Meets World that you wanted to share? Observations? I love the relationship of Alan and Amy.
Yes,
I thought they were great parents.
Like the prime
that's what you would like.
That you
imagine what you would want as your marriage.
They would struggle. They would communicate. They showed
and like how they taught the kids. Like, to go through life, you're just like, man, that's awesome.
It's one of the most believable couples I've seen on television.
Yes.
Without it getting, like, mean or nasty. It was just like, there was just firmness in the relationship. If there was something wrong with it, they would bring it up right there. I loved it. And that's what I appreciate watching it second go-around or many other go-arounds was just, that was a great aspect of the show that was not really appreciated when I was younger.
So, yeah, it was really good. Like, Mr. Feeney was definitely, I think, in my opinion, the thing that kept the show going.
He was.
Yes.
He was the one consistent that didn't change. He was the same person throughout the entire series.
He did get mean at the end of the season 7 where he kept calling Eric a moron.
He did.
I didn't care for that. I was like, that's a little out of character. Yeah. But I did like him when he danced. The episodes where he was dancing.
Oh, yes, the dancing episode. Yeah, that was fun.
All right, so get into Girl Meets World. I made a list of some of the episodes where there are characters or references to other characters. Like the first episode, just so you know, Corey is
He's the new Feeney.
He's the new Feeney, and there's actually a joke, and I didn't remember which episode Topanga's talking to her daughter, Riley, about their mentor, Mr. Feeney, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I married Mr. Feeney." She has that realization, like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?" But there's an episode called 1961 where they kind of give a book report on their ancestors, and they have a connection. And Riley plays her grandmother.
I like that episode.
And she, you find out why she named her daughter Topanga.
Yep.
That was a really good one. There was Home for the Holidays.
Not her daughter. It was her grandmother.
It was her grandmother? Okay. 61. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. And then there was the Christmas episode where...
Maybe it is his mother.
I thought it was a mother.
I think you're right.
It was the Christmas episode where Corey's parents and Sean come and visit, and like you see classic Corey.
Yeah.
When Sean shows up, he has that like, "Oh, Sean is coming."
The giddiness.
Yes, you can definitely tell like that was still tight from that first season there. And then later on in that season, Sean meets
Angela.
That's later. Sean meets Riley's
friend.
Riley's friend's mom. Maya's mom, who Maya's kind of like the Sean of the show, but Sean meets her mom, who's also single, and so they start developing a relationship at that point. And so Sean becomes a semi-regular. He shows up.
He actually directs like 18 episodes.
He directs a lot of the episodes, but like he doesn't actually appear in that many. But the episodes he does show up, they are very important.
They're very good.
The storyline.
Yes. It also closes Sean's like
story arc. Absolutely.
It does. And you get more closure. If you want more closure on some of your characters, you get that in Girl Meets World. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of skip some of like...
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of...
Disney overacting.
Yes, there's a ton of that. Then you get into the second season, Mr. Squirrel. You get to see Mr. Squirrels again.
Yes,
he makes an appearance. And then you run into Angela comes back.
She does.
And you find out Sean finds out if there's anything left over between them, and Angela's actually getting married.
No, she's trying to have children, or she's deciding whether she should be a mother.
Yes.
I just watched it. So that's the issue. She has the wedding ring. She got married. You find out her father dies.
Yes.
And she's looking for someone that knows her. And she goes to Sean. And Sean goes, you know you'd be a great mom. I don't know why,
Yeah.
You need to ask. And she gets the confirmation so she can move forward. And you get closure on that storyline.
Because that story definitely does not get resolved in Boy Meets World. That was great.
Dangles there. It's mentioned, but...
Then you got Mr. Squirrel Goes to Washington. That's the one where you see Tommy comes back.
Oh, yes. I had no clue, and you see it, you're like, that is Tommy.
Yeah, it's the same little kid. You see Minkus from season 1. Yes. He comes back because he is the father to one of the main characters, Farkle.
Yes, Farkle.
And his mom is one of Sean's ex-girlfriends.
The really mean one.
The really mean one
from the First Girlfriends Club.
Yes, and she actually, like, in the Boy Meets World episode, she forbids Sean from hanging out with Corey, and so, like, Corey and Sean have this, like, secret meetups and all that stuff.
I love the library scene.
Yes, the library scene's like,
I got you this muffin. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have. It's like a love affair between two best friends.
And then, in the let's see here, they go to the same ski lodge that Corey...
Oh, yes.
Do they now?
And they run into her son. And she tries to get with Riley.
Yes.
Oh, great.
And then she gives Corey a message from her mom.
Oh, no.
And, like, there was just, like, funny little liners. I think he's all like, nothing good happens in the mountains. Nothing good happens.
That's always the thing.
And then Sean and Maya's mom
they
get married.
Mr. Feeney's there.
Mr. Feeney is alive. After the first episode, they make you think, is Mr. Feeney dead? But he does. You do see him later on in the series.
He officiates the wedding.
He does. Sean's wedding. So... And there are a few others, like Harley Kiner. He comes in.
He's the janitor.
He's the janitor.
He's a good guy, though.
He is. He's come back. He calls Corey Baboon again. He's like, I told you to stop. Call me that. He goes, sorry.
Oh yeah.
And then you see Mr. Turner. He comes back. He comes back for a few episodes.
Yes.
So, but yeah, those are kind of the references there.
So if you need more Boy Meets World, you go to Girl Meets World, and you get glimpses of it.
Yes.
And Jack makes an appearance.
He does.
There, and you get a little bit more closure.
He looks super skinny in that. Like, he looks...
He's not the same. He's not Mr. 6% body fat, working out, tan. Yeah, he looks different. And so it's still good. And they mention Rachel. And you get a little bit more story with that. And, I think we've reached the end. There's a long journey.
Yes.
Very long. Nostalgia trip on the Japheth train, and
it was fun.
We've reached our end. As you can tell, huge impact on our life, and you can still relate to it as an adult. And
there were so many episodes that we wanted to get to, but we've already gone.
I'm sure there's a podcast about Boy Meets World.
I'm sure there is.
Analyze everything, and so. I'm surprised one of us has not named one of our children after one of the characters in this show.
That's not to say I haven't tried.
Topanga!
Topanga! Well, I don't have a girl yet.
Yeah, it's true. So, thank you for listening to this podcast.
Let us know what your favorite episodes are.
Please, just write down a funny line that you like. The Feeney doll... or when Eric had create a Corey doll when he was at Disney World.
Yes.
That was great.
And Mr. Feeney's like, why did you stuff your brother in the locker? Just moments that we didn't mention, bring up, so that way we could all just share and laugh in it. Again, the show has great moments, and if you watch TGIF as a kid, you'll really appreciate listening to this and sharing the different podcasts. And also share this podcast with people that you know that like Boy Meets World, or... like TGIF, because they certainly watched the show. It had an effect on
a generation.
In
fact, there is an episode in Girl Meets World where Topanga talks about how, like, I wonder how many relationships we've ruined with the idea of a Cory and Topanga relationship.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So please follow us on social media. We got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got YouTube, and then we've got nothing else.
Our email.
Email. Yeah, we have that too.
We got an email.
Email. Yeah, email us. Anything. And with that being said, our journey is concluded, and until then, auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.